Hi guys, this is Mike. In this Cinema 4D tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use Quantize. So to demonstrate Quantize, what we can do is we can go to primitives, and let's just choose a cube. Let me zoom out. And you can use Quantize for any object. It just has to be, it cannot be parametric. So you can't use the handles with Quantize, and you can't use the deformers. So let's make this cube editable. And we'll go to Mode in your Attributes Manager, and we'll go to Modeling. And then go to the Quantize tab and then enable Quantize. Now we can adjust how our movement is based on this value. So if we go to say 50, and we'll go into our directional tool, and we'll move in this axis, you can see that it snaps to 50 centimeter increments. You can also do this in rotate. Just make sure that you have this set in rotation. So 50 degrees, we'll say maybe 45 degrees. And you can see it moves into 45-degree increments. And same thing with scaling. So we'll go to 50 degrees. We'll go to transform, and you can see it expands or scales in 50-degree and inwards as well. So let's do an example of using Quantize. So I'm just going to delete this cube, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to primitives again, and I'm going to choose a cylinder. So let's turn off caps. We're not going to use caps. And let's go to rotation segments. We'll go to 8. And we'll go to height. We'll go to 100. And we'll shrink our radius down. Let me zoom in a bit. I think we can make this a little bit thinner. C on your keyboard will make this editable. Now I want to make sure that I go to modeling. I'm going to turn off or disable the quantizing. I'm just going to rotate this. Command click and drag to make a copy. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate to 90 degrees. And now let me go to front view. So we'll go to F4 on your keyboard. And what I want to do is I want to make a cut that goes diagonal across our object. So let's go to line mode, KK, and we're going to start here, and right where our lines intersect with our other object. And let me back up because I have visible checked. So escape, make sure you have visible only unchecked. And we're just going to check single line mode as well. So I want to undo because I still have that point. So click, and right where this line intersects. And we're going to do the same thing here as well. So let's go to perspective mode, and I'll turn off our original object that we made. You can see our cuts. And now let's do the same thing to our original object that we made. And we'll go to front view. And then right where our line intersects, and we'll do the same thing at the top here. Okay, so let's check out our cuts here. So we're looking good. So what I want to do is I want to delete these polygons where I made this cut, just on the interior here. So I'm going to again go to front view, go to our live selection, and we have only select visible elements checked, so we're going to uncheck this and make sure we're in polygon mode. So delete here and delete here. And this is exactly what we want. Now let's go to our other cylinder. Let me hide our first cylinder, go to front view again. Delete and delete. Now we're gonna have, let's see here. What we're gonna have here is our two objects, but we're gonna need to connect these two objects. So we're gonna select the two, right click, connect objects plus delete. So the issue is that we have these gaps here, and they're not actually connected point-wise. So what we'll do is we'll select all in point mode, and then we'll go to optimize, and we'll click on this little gear here. And now what optimize does is it welds these points based on this tolerance, based on this radius. So if we bump this up to say 0.3 and click enter, we can see we have these points welded. We don't have all of them welded. So let's go to optimize, click on the gear again, and let's bump this up a little bit more to say 0.5. And we're getting there. We still have a few other points left over. A few little gaps. So I'm going to do this again, and let's go to say 7. And now you can see that our points are now connected. And this is what we want. Okay, so now that we have this object, what I want to do is I want to command click and drag and make another duplicate. I'm sorry, undo, moving ahead. Now let's go to rotate. I want to rotate this 45 degrees. So this is where our quantize is going to come in. So we'll go to mode, modeling, enable quantize, and I already had this set. So if you don't have this set, rotation 45 degrees, and we're just going to rotate, and it's going to snap right to our 45-degree angle. Okay, so at this point, what I want to do is let me go back to modeling, and let's disable quantize. Now if I make sure I am in model mode, command click and drag, And what I want to do is I want to line up, and we'll just eyeball this. We'll line up our duplicate so that these lines get pretty close. And we can, we don't have to make this too exact, but I'm just gonna eyeball this and move this over until these points are connected, or close to each other. So what I want to do is similar to what we did with our line cuts with the cylinders. So I have my original one that we have right here on this right side, and I'm going to go to line mode and front view. And what I want to do is I want to put a cut here, so KK. I'm going to make a click and then shift, and we have our line, and we make sure we have visible elements, or visible only, unchecked. So let's move down here, and we'll do the same thing. Click, shift, and then click again. Let's go to our perspective mode. I'm going to turn off our duplicate. And you can see I actually missed this one line. So I'm going to connect these two. I'm going to make sure I have visible elements checked at this point. And I'm just going to connect that point. I missed that one. Okay. So now at this point, what I can do is I can delete these points, or these polygons. So let's go to our front view, polygon mode, and select these, delete. Select these and delete. And we have a few points left over, so I'm just going to deselect and then optimize. We'll get rid of those points. So now we have our we have these points, or we have this ends now deleted. What I want to do next is I want to make sure I get this top points deleted as well. So what I can simply do is command, click and drag. Right here, and make sure those are pretty close, as the same thing as I did before. And maybe you have to make a slight adjustment. And so I want to do the same thing with we have our original selected. We'll go to our front view and then line mode, KK. And we'll select this point, hold down shift, and make our cut, and then we'll go to our perspective mode and had visible elements checked. So I apologize. Just want to remember having that unchecked. So I'm going to undo. Let's go to front view. And I might have, okay, I'm good. I just wanted to check to see if I had a point. Hold down shift and click. And let's go to our perspective mode. And we'll hide the duplicate that we made. And let's check out our cut. Okay, we're looking good. And we can select our polygons here. And you can see I made some selections. Have only visible elements checked. And we'll select here, delete. Grab this one little polygon, delete. Okay, so we have our, we have this set up. We don't have these are cut on this end, so we're just gonna make a symmetry object. And I'm gonna delete these old, really these are just guides for us. So what I want to do now is I want to select our polygons, and we'll have our tolerant selection checked. And you can do this in front view if this will help you make sure you get all your polygons, and we can delete. And we'll clean up these points, optimize. And so we'll put this into a symmetry object. Let me go to our perspective mode, and we can pull this back in order to get this lined up correctly. And we can go into front view again. So it looks like we have a bit of an issue. Let me go to point mode because there's a bit of a gap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these points just on the center line. And I'm going to go to right click, set point value, or MU on your keyboard. And we're going to go into the X. We'll go set, coordinate system world, and then click apply. That'll snap your points to our center line. That way there isn't a gap. And you can see that we have our points symmetrical on this side, but not on the bottom. So we're going to make this editable. Pull this out. Now we're going to do the same thing but for our bottom. So I'm going to delete this null that was left over. And I'm going to go to polygon mode. We'll go to front view. Let me zoom out a bit. We'll go to our rectangle selection. We'll select these polygons, delete, point mode, deselect, optimize, clean up our points. And we'll do the same thing. We'll go to symmetry, move our cylinder into our symmetry. Let me zoom out. And what's going on here is we have to make sure we're in the right mirror plane. Okay, so XZ. And let's just double check we have a bit of an issue here with our, a bit of a gap. So I'm going to select our symmetry. Or excuse me, select our cylinder, the object that we have. And I'm going to select these points, and let's make sure we're in our front view. So we have our points selected. We're going to go to MU, bring up set point value. Now we were in the X. So what I want to do is I want to set that to leave. And now what we want is the points not in the X, but in the Y. So we'll go to set, coordinate system world, and then apply, just to set those points in alignment. Okay, so now that we have this set up, everything is symmetrical. I'm going to hit our symmetry, make that editable. We'll pull this out and we'll delete our null. So what I want to do is I want to go to our model mode. And I can go into front view. And what I want to do is I want to command click and drag over to our right. But I want to use Quantize. Now I'm moving in the X position, the X axis. So if I look down here, we have our size. We can see what our the size of our object is. So I'm going to select this. Command C is going to copy. And I'm going to go over to model, mode and model. And in our movement, we're going to paste in our object size and enable Quantize. So when I pull over, and if I go into our directional tool, it's going to snap over onto the other side. So let me undo, command click and drag, and we'll have our object snap over to exactly the point where we need it. So at this point, we can then click and drag and select our two objects, connect objects plus delete. And now we have our 2 points, or our two objects. And let's make sure our points are connected so we can select all and optimize. And that's going to connect our points, because sometimes if you bring over an object, even though it's exactly at the same point, it may not be welded. So it's always a good idea to double check periodically. You select all your points and then optimize, and those will weld those points together. So we're looking in pretty good shape. But let's say we want to add in a few more. Well, we can simply do our same thing that we want to do. We can command click and drag, and we know that those points are exactly the width that we needed. So we can drag over, and we'll have to drag twice, or not drag twice, but make sure that you move over enough so we have both of the objects of this X moved over, and then we can connect again. So connect objects plus delete, and then what we'll do is we'll go to point mode, select all, and then optimize to weld those points. So that's good. But let's say we want to make a few more in the height. So we'll do the same thing. We have our height, which is here in the Y. So I'm going to command click and copy. Or select and command C for copy. And then we'll do the same thing. We'll go to model, and then movement. We'll paste in our amount. We have it enable quantizing, and we'll command click and drag. And what we could do is we can do this a few times. And maybe one more time, I think we'll be fine. And so what we have here is we now have this pattern that we can continue using along with our quantizing, we can snap everything exactly into place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these, right click and connect objects plus delete. We'll go to point mode, select all, optimize, and those will all weld together. So at this point, you can see that using Quantize can be a really time saver for you in order to move objects that have to be precisely moved. So at this point, what we can do is we have this pattern, and this could be, you can use this for a fence. You can use this for any type of pattern design in, say, architectural. But what I want to do is I want to take this a tad step further, and let's put in a deformer. And I'm going to put this into our underneath our object, and we'll go fit to parent. And we're not going to be at the right angle. So what we want to do is, so if you move this strength, you can see it's not curvature, not getting the curvature that I want. So what you can do is you can go to R and probably need to take off our Quantize. So go to modeling, disable our Quantize, and I'm just going to rotate this, hold down shift till we get to 90 degrees. Click on bend, fit to parent, and probably won't have it again. So let's undo, click on bend. We'll rotate this direction, hold down shift, get to 90 degrees, fit to parent, adjust our strength, and you can see we have our curvature exactly where we want it. And if we go to full 360 degrees, that connects up nicely. And what you can do is you can select your bend and your cylinder, and you can go to current state to object, and let me hide our original. And you can see that now using the bend deformer, we can get this pretty interesting object. And let's go to select all and optimize, make sure those points are connected. And now what you can do is put this into a subdivision surface, drag our cylinder underneath our subdivision surface, and now we have a pretty interesting object. And now obviously we have some, the tops here, these aren't connected. We can close polygon hole if you want to do that. So there's definitely different things that you can try in order to make a pretty interesting object. This is just for demonstration purposes, but you can do a few things here. Maybe you want to put in a tube real quickly, and let's go to top view, so F2 on your keyboard. And I'm just going to drag this into place very quickly. I just want to wrap this up. And I'll bring the radius down, inner radius. We'll bring our outer radius down. Let's go to our perspective mode. I'll bring this up to the top. And we'll shrink this height down a little bit. Make sure I'm in model mode. And let's go to height, drag this down, move this over. Maybe we'll put a fillet and we'll adjust the radius, adjust the height a little bit more, and command click and drag, and that will cap off your object. This could be a sculpture, it could be a light. If you want to put a bulb in there, and it'll give it sort of a lamp if you would like. So As you can see, Quantize is a pretty useful tool in order to help you make your objects and make sure that they're a lot more accurate, so you can have a lot more accurate objects when you're doing your modeling. I put a link in the description to download project files. You can also go to astronomic3d.com to download project files from this tutorial and all the tutorials that I've made so far. Thanks for watching.